Hey guys, and welcome back to Only the Brave podcast with myself, Dane Smith. We are joined by our YouTube viewers, so welcome YouTube viewers to Only the Brave. This will be season 2 of the podcast, but season 1, of course, on videos. Everyone has been asking me to make videos, and it was quite a journey. Because I was quite nervous to show my face to everyone. I know some people might find it hard to believe, those who know me. But yes, because it's such a production that goes into everything. And here we are, the first day of shooting. I'm so excited. I hope you guys enjoy. I'm just going to give everybody a recap of what Only the Brave podcast is about, just so that you have more of an understanding. And if you want to catch all the season 1 content, you can go on to Apple Podcast, Only the Brave. You can go onto Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast from, that's where we are streaming from. So yes, so it's been a while. I know I've taken a break, a little bit of a long hiatus, just because nothing comes easy these days. There's always challenges and stuff, and I've had to face those challenges. Hence, I've taken such a long break from the podcast, because my mixer, firstly, my mixer's still in for repairs, and then I had problems trying to procure another microphone. But I read this book over the break, and it spoke about the obstacles, and basically what it says, that we need to turn our obstacles into an opportunity and the pathway. So that's what I'm trying to achieve right now. So this is me putting everything that I've learned and read into practice. So yes, guys, remember, if you have an obstacle, it can be the way. It can be the way forward for you to achieve whatever you need to achieve. And speaking about reading, I also came across this very interesting book by an author, Terry Ann Adams, and she's a local author from South Africa, and she's in the community that my family and I come from, and she writes so beautifully about the challenges in the community, toxic masculinity, misogyny, racial issues, and it's so beautifully written, and I learned so much from it. And that also had me thinking about things that I want to do as well, in terms of giving a voice to that particular community. And I remember when I went away to visit my friends over the Easter break, they were asking me, what am I trying to accomplish, with this project? They were asking if it's closure that I need or a sense of identity. And I think over the years, I found my identity, and what I want to do is help provide a platform for those who are trying to figure out this thing called life, and especially in that community, because it's not a conversation that people have often. And I think that through my short experience and journey through life, I was able to cultivate some authenticity within that. So yes, so that book was so interesting, and that has set me on another path. So the answer to that question really is me wanting to provide that opportunity. And then I was also able to complete my book, the Ante the Soul. And that book was, such a beautiful piece for me. It really has changed the course of my life. I remember it was my friend gifted me that book, and it took me a year to actually read it. And in that year, her and I kind of drifted apart. We had a few issues in our friendship, and I kind of felt very lost, not because of the friendship, but because of the journey I was on my own personal journey. And I started reading the book, and it really opened up so much, all these unanswered questions I could do a lot of introspection. And I know people always used to tease me, not people, but one specific person, and just me getting into that introspection space, and it really allowed that for me. And what I appreciate about this obstacle that took place with my equipment and stuff was for me to actually complete the book. So I got to complete the Untethered Soul, and it was a beautiful journey for me. I loved it, and I'm so grateful to that friend who gifted it to me. And yes, it took me a year to get to it, but I eventually did. And I know I'm touching a lot about books, because I used to be someone that couldn't stand reading, especially reading self-help books. I just felt that why I felt as if, I was supposed to have the answers and not necessarily someone else. But what I've learned from it is that people write about their own experience, and we kind of, in this thing called life, we all share experiences. So it's always so important for me at least, to now plug into that, because I can see that our experiences are kind of similar, and it really has helped me. So it just is also for me to encourage everyone to kind of read. I know you guys might feel like how I felt in the past, where I was like, really, do I have to, I can kind of figure out everything on my own. But you can't. It's not that easy, because life constantly throws things at us, and it's quite difficult to navigate, especially with like social pressures and stuff. We're all thinking that everybody, from what we see, has I don't want to swear, I can't swear because it's a different platform, but they have their stuff together. And I also got to realize that people looked at me in that light. I remember meeting people at social gatherings. I know we're not supposed to be socializing because we are still in the pandemic, but the little bit of socializing I've been doing and people have been looking at me like, Dane, like, how have you been able to, keep up this lifestyle that I led before the pandemic? And, that was really shocking for me, because these were people who I thought were awakened. They knew what the perception that social media gives is not a real perception. And I said to them, I reminded them that I am still the same person. It's just I post different now. And yes, I do go out and I do travel a little, and those are like from my experiences, but it's not necessarily a sum up of my life. I am still struggling with certain things. I'm still trying to navigate. I'm still kind of sort of on my pills, my anxiety pills. My anxiety has been better now, but those are obviously things I'm not going to post and expose to the world. But because I have a platform like this as well, I also think it's important for me to kind of speak about it now more openly, especially because this platform was provided for me to speak to my peers and just like people in society, and to provide that platform for them to be vulnerable. And I was like, if I'm not being vulnerable, then I'm kind of defeating the purpose of this podcast and now this YouTube channel. So yes, so I had that experience. I still am kind of navigating around it, so I don't have to be taking pills all the time, because it's not a great thing, to not be in your full senses, for me at least, because I don't think I'm clinically depressed or anything. I just suffer a lot with anxiety, especially when I'm like overwhelmed with life. So yes, so there was that experience. It was quite a long break, I know. So there was a lot of things I had to go through, especially with family as well. This has been a time for me just plugging in as well with them, also trying to spark conversations with my family, just in terms of my identity in this world and in society. So that's also been very interesting for me, trying to find out where my family line comes from, and just how we've come to this space. I remember learning something about a family member, that another family member had the same experience, and I could kind of empathize with that situation and sympathize with that, because I didn't understand. We always have this perception of someone, and like I mentioned, the perception people had of me, like, oh, you're doing great, how are you doing it, and whatever you're doing, keep doing it, but without understanding the background story. So I've also had the opportunity, I'm so grateful for that I was able to speak to a few family members and just understand their story, because we all have a story to tell, and we need to take the opportunity to listen to those stories so that we can kind of understand where we come from and where we're going, and who we're also dealing with. Because I know the biggest thing as well is, especially when it comes to the family dynamic, we think we know one another, but we really don't, because we don't engage to that level of vulnerability as well, because it really takes courage, to ask those questions, and understand those stories, and also share a part of yourself, because we all have our own experience in our family dynamics. So yes, so that was very interesting for me. Guys, it really was a long break. So a lot did happen. I don't want to necessarily go that deep, because this is a relationship we are here trying to cultivate, and I want us to be on this journey together. I want people to also have the courage to come out, and chat about things that they have been struggling with and, putting on the back burner, because I'll deal with it whenever I need to, so let's work on this together. Let's get to know one another. Yes, there was also another interesting thing I joined, or I lent my voice to. It's also on YouTube now. It's Smiles and Stuff, and that was a conversation I lent my voice to regarding the LGBT plus community, and just our experience there. And when I was watching the video in the week, because it came out finally, it also sparked another conversation, because there was a question that was asked on that video about straight allies and such, and that day I don't think I listened to the question. I answered it fully to what I to the best of what that I wanted to. But when I had the conversation, after watching the video again, and then we spoke about myself and the person who we spoke about, we were kind of unpacking the video, and she was saying that as a straight person, there are things that straight women have to, face as well. They live in this world where they could get killed, by their partners and stuff. That's production. It happens. Something. Yeah, it's fine. Yes. So there's women also have to, be their own allies, because they are fighting a pandemic on their own. And I was like, of course, granted. The same like the LGBT community, we have to fight things for us. The same like with racial issues, each race has to kind of fight for their place. So we're all kind of fighting for our place in society. But then at the end of the conversation, I was saying we also need to, and I think I mentioned this in season 1, we need to start looking at these issues and challenges as a human issue, so that we all can have more compassion towards one another. Because if we're going to continue to box our challenges and issues, we're never really going to get to common ground where we understand each other's pain and stuff, So that was really insightful for me, and just also building up to this chat, it really made me put me aside and really come to you guys as like a human being. Like, this is my story. This is, what I'm trying to do. This is how I'm trying to lend my voice, whatever I have here in terms of the podcast and stuff, just to create that for another human being, for them to come on here and to speak about certain things. And we are going to be having those conversations. I have a friend that's coming onto the podcast, and she is so eager to share her story with her abuse story. And I remember going through that experience with her. It was so difficult for me to kind of support her at the time, because I had demons I was facing just from my childhood, like seeing abuse in my family home, and I never understood why women stayed. So when she was going through that experience, I couldn't support her as best as I wanted to at the time. But now, like years later, and just me having a better understanding, as an adult especially, I've invited her over. She's excited to come and share her story, because there's still a lot that I need to also understand, in terms of her staying in that relationship with that guy. I know there were tons of things she expressed as to why she's staying in that relationship, and she wants to lend her voice to, and so that everyone who is going through that situation, kind of to help them. And I know we will always have these conversations about abuse until until such a time we no longer have to look at it as a pandemic and, where women are fearing their lives. So I'm just quite excited for that conversation to happen. She's been constantly asking me, when is the podcast coming back, checking up. And that's also kind of like been burning a fire in me. Like, yes, Dane, we have to continue to have these conversations. Because there were a lot of times I felt like, yeah, season 1, it happened. Was I happy about it? That's debatable with myself. But just the conversations I continue to have with people, I now understand it's important for us to continue to have this, just because I was kind of measuring my success with other podcasters out there. And yes, we all struggle with that, but I had to remind myself that I cannot measure my success to someone else, because what someone else is doing is a totally different message that they're trying to bring across. So I need to stay the course and fulfill what I initially wanted to fulfill when I had this desire for the podcast. So yes, I'm just very grateful to my friend for reminding me why I'm actually doing this. And so there's so much more coming up. I'm so excited. There's going to be tons of episodes. I don't think, because season 1 was kind of like me putting up my feels, to see how everyone would react to this type of content, and the response has been great, and people have been asking for video. So I'm really excited for the video part of it. I'm sure it's going to come out well. I'm crossing fingers. And then yes, just like things that have been currently happening in society these past few weeks was with the passing of Anele, and how everybody's opinion on that. Because I remember I went to my granny's birthday dinner, and so my cousins and I were just catching up and chatting, and they were asking me, how do I feel about the whole passing of Anele and just their relationship, because we all have our opinions. And Anele being a young 21-year-old girl, I think 21 or 22, I'm not sure. And I was saying to them, I put myself in her shoes, because when I was 21, I was leading quite a toxic life when it came to the partners I was dating. And I recall an incident where I would have these outbursts, especially because we would always get intoxicated, and when we were together. So there was always an opportunity for things to go wild. And I was saying to my cousins, and they were shocked, because that was me revealing a piece of myself that they had never known. And I was saying that I would do that as well. I would start an argument, and I would want him to pull off at the side of the road in the middle of the night, trying to test his love for me, So things like I would get quite toxic. That was my experience. I would, go into a toxic space, because I was also quite intoxicated. And they were like, yeah, they didn't really look at it in that way. And I know that the conversation was happening, that they were intoxicated and things happened. But I had to kind of also just bring it home and to say that yes, we go through these things, at that age, and sometimes it stays longer. It just all depends on our experience in life and the people we interact with, because it definitely got better for me as I started engaging more with people and understanding that behavior is quite toxic for me, because it's dangerous. Because I remember getting myself into situations that were kind of dangerous. Me wanting to, trying to walk in the middle of the night. I remember the police coming, trying to understand what's happening here, but I was just so fumed up, you don't really think straight. So when it comes back to Anele and AKA, unfortunately she's no longer around for her to learn from her mistakes and, to do better. But for us that are still here, and I know for the younger guys who might be feeling like, yes, this, I'm relating to this. I kind of do find myself being a little bit toxic. There's always an opportunity. There's an opportunity to reflect and do some introspection and, do better and move past from that. So yes, so that was that, and that's still a very interesting conversation that's taking place, because people are blaming, aka I think people want to blame her, but they can't because she's not here to defend herself. So it's a very tricky situation, that we find ourselves in. And it's also an important lesson for us to learn, especially for younger guys, because I do understand when I was that age, like I've mentioned, it was a toxic roller coaster for me. And it's also because I had no ideal example of what a healthy relationship looked like because of what I've seen growing up, so when it was my turn to start cultivating romantic relationships, I had no idea. I was just going on my emotions and what I felt was right. So those are the kind of conversations we will be getting into going forward in the podcast. I'm really looking forward to it. Season 2 is going to be great. We might be changing the venue from time to time just because people feel comfortable in their space, and there's also certain things that people want to show us, so that's going to be quite interesting. And yes, for the people listening on Apple and Spotify and all the other streaming services, go onto YouTube and type in Only the Brave podcast. Subscribe, like, comment, engage with us. I'm really excited and curious to hear your perspective and point of view. I think it's so important for us to do that, just to keep this conversation going. And yes, guys, thank you so much to the season 1 listeners. You've really helped me overcome, something that I was struggling with for many years when it came to putting out this kind of content. Because many years ago, a friend of mine, we would put up fashion videos and stuff, and we kind of didn't know what we were doing. But I think that was also preparing me for this moment right here, that I can have the confidence to speak to everyone, so I'm so grateful to everyone that's indulged me, and it's going to be great. So thank you so much.